everybody, and welcome to this edition of Behind the Brilliance on Foxlight Entertainment. Today, I am sitting here with Cody Kiser. He is a local to Ottawa, Kansas. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
And he has written this book called Quantum Observational Individual Reality, or QOIR Theory. And we're here to talk to him about this book. It's absolutely fascinating. So, Cody, welcome, and do tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Cody Kiser. I just have a passion for our minds, how we think, like what makes us choose the actions we choose, that kind of thing. So I have always been fascinated with it, and it also pairs well with my love for quantum physics. And
so what inspired you to start this book or write this? What inspired you?
Well, I would say it started when I was younger. It started with my family being fairly religious. They would take me to churches and things like that. And I would go, we were really in depth into church. Like my aunt and my uncle took me to Lutheran churches. I went to West Calvary Baptist Church for summer camp and everything like that when I was younger. So I was kind of immersed in that tradition that we're all familiar with in Christianity.
Absolutely in America, yes.
So I was always asking questions, and when I asked questions at church, what I got told was to stop asking questions. That's all comes up to a matter of faith. And I'm like, see, I don't feel comfortable with that. So I asked more questions, and then I was told I was going to hell.
Oh.
So with that in mind, that kind of drove me further. And I should mention that I also have ADHD and ODD, operational defiant disorder. So I tend to...
Oh, do tell. I've never heard of this.
So we're not all the same, so I can't say we're all the same in that aspect. But one of my triggers is when I'm told I can't do something, or when I'm told that I've done something wrong that I haven't done, or when I'm told that I'm just like a number in a machine, or I'm treated like something little.
This sounds very familiar.
So those are I just have a few little triggers, and luckily as I've gotten older, I've recognized how to use them as fuel rather than to just be driven mad by them. So so my original thought was when I was going into middle school, I was reading things like R.R. Tolkien, The Lord of the Rings, R.L. Salvador, and I was really falling in love with these kind of fantasy cultures, which seemed to go against everything in Christian beliefs, to the point where I had a Ouija board, and my aunt burnt my Ouija board.
Oh.
And I swear, I don't know, to this day, I think my grandmother just replaced it, but it returned back to the closet.
The burned board?
Just brand new board.
A brand new board.
It was never, because it was new anyway, but it was like the same box and everything that I watched burn. It was, for me, it was crazy, but for her, it was probably just some tape and a sander. So my grandma was crafty. And she was always one to never let me be told what to do, and by anybody other than people I respect.
Right.
And then she was also told me to respect other people, just respect them in general.
Yes.
And so I've learned to do that as I've gotten older. So some might call me an atheist, but I'm not an atheist with an agenda. I don't.
So do you believe in a higher authority?
I believe that you are the higher authority.
We are the higher.
Authority.
Together.
So I believe that you individual, you are energy. You have come from the vast field that was energy that has created this beautiful cosmic dance that we call reality. That energy, which could be from, say, the Big Bang, or a little bang, or a big squish, whatever you want to call it. Like, there's debate. Whatever that beginning was, that energy traveled. Now, I can't tell you if this is the first time that energy has ever been a person. Because I'm not in control of how physics work, and because quantum physics is everywhere and nowhere all at once, it is a possibility. I can tell you that this is the first time I've ever been a person, and I'm just enjoying the ride.
Amen.
So,
Amen. So can you explain the concept of QOIR theory in layman's terms so that our audience can understand what QOIR theory is?
So Albert Einstein said it best. He said, if you don't understand a topic well enough to describe it easily and understandably, then you don't understand it well enough at all. And I think that's kind of what I went for in the book.
It was very easy for me to understand, but I think some of the dynamics of it, if you're not at least familiar with this line of thinking.
Right, and I try to introduce it slowly in little.
You did a great job. You did a
people.
really good job.
So it's what it is quantum physics is just the study of the very, very small. Like we're talking atomic particles, like quarks, neutrons, neutrinos, like tiny little bits of atoms that fly everywhere, right? And so we know what's inside an atom, what makes up an atom, and we can view atoms with the electron microscopes and things like that. But what we discovered was that atoms do this funny thing where if you're not watching them, they kind of do whatever they want to do. And until you measure them, they don't hold still. They just do what they want to do. So that and along with consciousness, kind of like how we think, this is where I blend the two. And I get into how we think. How we perceive time is not linear. We developed that over centuries. So how I count to 10 in my head is not how you count to 10 in your head. So since our minds perceive time differently, and since perception of reality is, and of atoms and particles are constantly in that bouncing form, that's kind of how our minds work. Like when we have an idea, I could say something like, this is my book, or I could be random and say, this is a squid. And that's the beauty of our minds, is we can just come up with that random stuff. And that's like the same principles that fall into quantum mechanics. Well,
and when you started talking about quantum mechanics, you were talking about parts that are being observed. Talk about that a little bit, and what happens with parts, or these particles that are being observed versus particles that are not.
Okay.
And how our mind helps that.
I talk about it a lot in the book. It's a double slit theory. It's well documented that when we so there's the best way I can do is kind of show you.
Okay.
Okay, so say I'm going to use these bookmarks if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
We'll use my pretty cosmic face on the background here.
Wonderful.
So say you have a wall with two slits in it, right? Like this, just two slides in it, right? So we shoot atoms at this wall.
So you've got particles coming through.
Yeah, we got particles shooting at it, right? They go through, bam, bam. And when we're measuring it, on the back, here, I'll just leave them there. On the back, you see the two sticks, they just would leave two dots, right? So those were the atoms that we shot through while we were measuring it. When we don't measure it, like when nobody's looking, the back doesn't look like that. So they take the form of like a wave pattern, like if you splashed water through instead. So instead of being two slits, it's energy that's bounced off of each other, and it creates several slits, different energies, different little beams of light that are in the back. So when it's not being observed, it's both going through those slits and not going through those slits, going through one of them and not the other, and deciding it, like whatever it's going to do. And it does it constantly at a rate that as long as we're firing it through, it's just doing it, making a wave pattern, which means it's doing it repeatedly off of one fire or two fires. Where we, in the double slit to get the same lines, we have to do it several times in a row. But we do it, the experiment over and over, like the amount we shoot the atoms are the same regardless. But we start to see the wave pattern emerge a lot sooner than we do when we are just taking the standard measurement. So it stands to reason that that energy itself that's inside the atoms that's kind of moving around has kind of, I don't want to say its own agenda or personality, but it's definitely got its own ideas about what it can do and what it's doing, and we're just kind of measuring those.
So, if I may, my understanding is they act as if they have their own level of consciousness and choose what they do when they're not being observed. But when we're observing them, our expectations of what they will do, is that...
In a way. Okay, so they don't really, there's only going to do two things. They're either going to make that wave on the background, or they're going to make two slits when we measure that. We know that from a science standpoint. So it's really not like we don't know what they're going to do or that they're sentient. We just know that they are capable.
Right.
That said, I transfer from my book to the energy, that same energy that is that possibility. I query that energy is what makes our decisions.
Is the decision.
Based off of the observation that we have had through our lives.
On our experiences and
our experiences are basically the walls we put up.
So that's a good segue into my next question. How did your background and your experiences influence your approach to this theory?
Accidentally. The best way I can say it. So I went to college originally, Neosho County Community College. I was taking psychology and theology classes. When I was in theology, I learned a lot of things. Excuse me. We had a lot of history classes on different religions and things like that. And one of the things that I noticed between my two classes that I was taking between theology and psychology was that most major box religions are manipulation tools.
I agree.
They are things to kind of keep people in line. It's like, so the poor don't eat the rich, basically.
Yes.
So to try to keep the populace docile. But that said, it doesn't mean I'm anti-religion. I do love listening to other people's theologies and other people's religions, but I will say if your religion calls for violence, I am not
about it.
I'm
exactly.
not for your religion at all.
Yeah, definitely a peaceable person.
Yeah. So and that goes to show people you don't need religion to have morals.
Exactly. Exactly.
No. So what it comes down to is, and the basics of this book are, so our minds do this wonderful thing when we pass away. They have this dump of DMT in our brain, which is this wonderful chemical that allows us to dream and just kind of have visions and things like that. People take DMT now for clinical studies, and they talk about how they see different dimensions and things like that. But
wouldn't that be amazing to be part of that study?
It's just a gateway. Oh, I'd love if anybody out there knows how to sign me up for it. I'm all about it. Like, I'm writing books about it.
I'm not writing books, but I'm reading books about it. I would love to be part of this study.
She can come with me.
I thank you for your permission there. I thank you. So how does QOIR theory bridge the gap between religion and science and what science can prove, or quantum mechanics?
So I wouldn't go around brandishing my book like to people's doors being like, your religion is wrong. That's not what I do. But what I will say is, like, if you have friends that are super religious and that are just like devote to their religion, don't let them read the book. Because the book's going to tell them that they are bigger than the God they're praying to, and that the God they're praying to is in fact themselves.
Yes.
And it's in their imagination. For example, if a person is really into, I love using this example, by the way, if a person is really into Dungeons and Dragons, like, I mean, really into Dungeons and Dragons, just as much as a person is really a Catholic or really a Seventh-day Adventist, then that person is going to have a different experience in that afterlife than the person that is the Seventh-day Adventist or the Catholic. Now, they're going to take with them everything they've learned from this life.
Right.
So they're going to learn like what they know here, like their cooking skills or whatever, or their memories, or I'm not sure how much, or if any of it stays intact. But if we're led to believe that this energy is able to make split decision on what we do in our mind and is able to quickly access that, then we have to believe that that energy is saving that as a catalog for us to be able to go back on. So it probably remembers our life better than we are physically capable of.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that.
So in that state, in that field of energy state, I believe that we are fully capable of, just like in dreams, creating a physical reality that we can breathe, touch, taste, all those things like that. So we get the passions that we have in life where people are like, well, we don't have to worry about any of that when we pass away. Those are still going to be there. And if you fill your life with good things, then those things are still going to be there too. And if you're kind to other people, but I fully believe that these energies can interact, because we're not, look, even if we are all the same energy, we're still experiencing it individually. So even if we all go back to some sort of energy glob, that we're all the same thing, we still will have our experiences of our past, which means I should still be good to her,
right?
And vice versa, so that when we are all the same, or if we bump into each other or things like that, or even in our own worlds that we create, like in our own minds. Like my version of you in my mind is this kind, sweet lady right here sitting in front of me. That unfortunately had a wonderful time and hurt herself.
Well, that was where my choice came in.
Well, I'm going to choose to remember you roller skating before you fell.
I'm going to roller skate again.
I believe you.
I'm going to roller skate again. I had too much fun. And I do not let the fear of this world stop me.
Can I suggest knee pads and elbow pads?
Absolutely, you can suggest them. Now, whether I'll take your advice or not is another issue.
It'll just help on the impact.
It'll help on the impact. It would not have helped in the situation where I broke. It actually looked right under my fanny. I fell directly down on that foot. So yeah, I don't think the knee pads would have helped me too much in that situation. But I really appreciate you for suggesting.
Thank you. Can I say a joke that you probably would?
Absolutely.
You said it. Your foot's okay. How's the fanny?
The fanny is fine.
You just cracked it.
Yeah, there's a lot of padding back here, so no problem with the fanny at all. The foot, on the other hand, couldn't take all the weight of the junk in the trunk. So, we have a broke leg. That's the way that ended up. That's the way that ended up. So, to get back to this, what are the most significant implications of QOIR theory for our current, and I added current here. I know when I sent you the original list of questions that I did not put current, because I believe that this book can change people's understanding. So, how does QOIR theory help us? What is its significant impact on our current understanding of reality?
So it just not really. Like we still have bills to pay, guys. Like regardless. Like, we're still gonna have to deal with Johnny at the subway or
punching the time clock.
Punching the time clock. No matter what you learned from my book, I can't stop that stuff.
Yeah, we are in this reality.
That's how it works. So, but what it says is that it's a call for mindfulness. It's a call for understanding of other people's cultures, of other people's beliefs. I can't tell you what you believe is wrong at all, because it's not wrong. It's not wrong for you. It's in your mind. That is solid for you. And I have to respect that, and I have to understand that that's beautiful for you. And until you be something like neo-Nazis do, and then I'll be like,
I can't get with you on that. I can't follow that.
No more.
Yeah, no fun.
But other than that, it's just like when you're talking to your friend, like I said, your religious friends, this isn't for them because it's going to make them question their religion. And I've had some religious friends that have read this and gotten mad because they feel like they were stuck in a box before.
Yes.
That they just realized this thing I was praying to all along was myself.
Yes.
And
that I could have made
this
this
I've
change.
been hearing when I pray isn't some otherworldly voice. It is myself from the ethos speaking to me, telling me that, hey, we've got this. You're just being you for a little while, but we've been here a long time.
And so a lot of times the way I explain this, because of who my father was and because he taught me to see the world in a quantum way, right? He would tell me, you can do this or you can do this, but it was always like my inner child really wants to go eat that strawberry right now, but I know I'm not allowed to have my dessert before dinner, so I'm going to partake of the rules here so that I don't get in trouble, right? I mean, we have to abide by the rules we're here in, but I don't even know that I would call it the difference between knowing that I was God or whatever. It's just, do I feed my inner child and make her happy, or do I comply with what the rules and expectations for this reality are?
I like that idea. Like, do I feed my inner child?
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
Like, should I just indulge?
Yeah, it's
See, my inner
or
child,
giving yourself permission to heal, to forgive,
right.
to
if
let
I
go.
Could hug little me. Oh,
yes,
man.
all day.
Like,
Just
I'd be
come
like,
here,
oh,
I got
come here,
you.
dude.
Yeah,
You
I got
this.
you.
Like, you got this, little dude.
You definitely do.
Like, and if you got any little dudes or dudettes out there, they've got this too.
And I think that's how I explain it. Like just that inner child going in and telling them they're okay, and even the big things. That is the most significant thing I got with that.
Well, as far as significance goes, I think the big idea is, like, if the science community and the medical community both are slowly getting behind this. There are studies all over that are showing that quantum effects happen at room temperature and even in the wet, noisy space of the brain. Wet, warm, and noisy space of the brain, as they call it. So we're seeing that, and we're starting to acknowledge that in science. And I'm not saying that I'm the first person to ever stumble upon this, but I may be the first person to ever put it all together and articulate it in a book.
Yes, for sure.
Terence McKenna and Carl Sagan and Dr. Michio Kaku, those are all guys that are kind of on that same
forerunners of this kind of same thought process, this thought here. So, can you discuss the observer effect? And I think we talked about that. I think we talked about that. We even did an example of it.
Just to hit it is like, if you're looking at it, it's gonna, like, if you're looking at Sally cross the street, and Sally notices you looking at her, she may not cross the street in the same way she usually would. So.
Oh, I like this example.
Right.
I like this example. And what would you call that vibe that you get that you know?
When you're being watched?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is incredible. That's a weird, super cool vibe. So I'm sorry I got excited about that. So it's documented. Like, people are like, okay, do we know when we're being watched? Yes. Like, how did they know? Like,
okay, so we can forego the formalities of the questions, and we can get down to some nitty gritty, because I'm a psychic medium, and I get all kinds of little pricklies. And
so I would love to put you in an fMRI machine when
I would
you're
love
having
this.
those things. That is, if there's anybody out there that has time to let me use an fMRI machine while she's having her psychic mediums, I would happily be able to do that.
I have friends, and I would love to do any of this. I really would. And so what is an fMRI machine before I agree? Or maybe I should know first.
So it's a brain imaging machine.
Okay.
So a fancy magnetic donut that they put around your head that just kind of reads what your mind is doing. It doesn't really read it, just takes pictures of it. Mm-hmm. And with an fMRI, they can do live imaging of it. So they can see what's firing, when it's doing, and what it's doing.
Oh, I would love to know too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, see what I'm saying? And so when you get the little hair standing up on the back of your neck, or you get the goosebumps, or a friend of mine, she wrote a book, and in her book she has this quote. It says, "Intuition is where knowing without reason makes you look like a fool, or something along this line. Meets looking like a fool, and her name is Barbara D. Hayward. She wrote this book, and it's called Letters to Grandma. It's a beautiful book, and but that quote in there is so true, because you get this sense that you know something. You don't know how you know it.
Right.
And literally, if I don't speak on it. So as an example, I went one time with a friend of mine to another friend's house that I'd never been to, but they'd known each other since high school. So longtime friends, long time being in this community, whatever. We're pulling into the driveway, and I'm asking my friend if he's sure this is the address, because I want to keep going. And he said, no, I'm sure this is his place. And I'm like, okay, so I guess we get out, right? And I still have this inkling. I want to go. And the road kind of winds around the back of his property like this, and it S's up this hill. And I just really want to keep going. And so we're there, and I said to him, I said, do you know somebody by the name of Miranda was her name? And I said, do you know someone by the name of Miranda? And he was like, yeah, actually, I just got off the phone with her. And I said, well, I don't think your conversation is done. I think you need to finish this conversation. And he said, no, we have company now. And literally, I just start shaking, like I'm shaking, because there's this energy that's pulling me to deliver this message that he has not completed. And so pretty soon I just kind of start walking off into the distance. And my friend that was with me was questioned whether or not I was okay and whether I needed somebody to go with me. My friend says, nah, she does this every now and again. She just kind of goes, And so his wife agreed to walk with me. And I said, okay, well, you can walk with me, but do not guide me. Do not tell me where I'm going. Just let me follow where I'm going here. And so as we rounded the road behind her house, it came around like this, and then it made another U. And there's a house in the middle of that U. And she wanted to cut straight across the property to get to the other side of the U and cut out I didn't want to do that. I was like, no, I want to go where I'm being led to. And she says, oh, we'll get back over there. She said, we're just cutting the property. And while I was in this little zone of this isn't where I'm supposed to be, it felt very off, and it felt wrong.
Like spooky.
Yeah. And so when we got to the road, then it was like I was recentered. I was rebalanced. I'm fine again. I'm back on track now. And I said, okay. So as we're walking, I said to her, is her house this color? And she said, yes, it is. I said, is there a shed out by the front door? And she said, yes, there is. And so we walked a little further, and I said, is this her house? And she said, yes, it is. And I went right up to the door. I knocked on the door. I introduced myself, and I tell her, I say, I know this is going to sound crazy, but this is what I do, and I have this message for you, and I think there's somebody trying to get a message to you. And so I give her this message. Not only does she know who I'm talking about, but everything I said to her resonated with her in a big way for what was currently going on in her life. And so how would you explain that with QOIR theory?
Personal experiences can be very therapeutic to look back on and kind of reminisce on those spikes in that kind of adrenaline and dopamine that come from those moments. It sounds like you were kind of experiencing a panic attack in the middle of it.
Well,
it's at least an anxiety attack.
It gives me great anxiety, and I will literally start physically shaking if I don't follow through with the leading of the energy.
Huh.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. So earlier I said I had ODD. You should look into it.
That's why I asked you to describe, because I have like 8 mental health diagnoses on me. I think they've put the whole alphabet soup on me.
I'm not trying to say anything. I'm just like one recognizing another maybe. What it is those impulses that we have, and I can't tell you where those come from or where those are guided by you. Those come from you. Those are fueled by you.
So would you say this is an example of what you're talking about?
I would say that you had an experience. And I would say that it was unique and that it helped you pursue the person you are today. I would say that it was awesome that there are people there to witness that. That is the key for me. If there's other people there to witness it.
So what do you think of the 3D to 5D discussions that are going on? Have you heard of this?
So I'm not sure how I feel about different dimensions because I want to make something very clear. The way I view it, the way QOIR Theory says it, there probably aren't dimensions. They're all happening all at once.
At the same time, yes.
We are all in one dimension. We are just only built capably to observe a certain portion of it right now.
A very small portion.
Right.
Yes.
And even in our small portion, it's so vast.
Yes.
It's massive. This physical stuff we touch goes on forever, guys. Outer space has this stuff in it too. Not chairs, but like rocks and stuff. It's out there.
Everywhere.
We can look at it. It's weird.
And that goes back to the Carl Sagan and stuff like this. When I remember as a little kid watching Carl Sagan with my father, talking about the universe being bigger than we can imagine. And the big discussions back then were, are aliens real?
Right.
And I always thought to myself,
Government just says they are now.
if let's just say that we believe the government and there's no such thing as aliens.
Oh, no, there's several studies out and recent presidents that have just come out, like last year. It was at the end of Trump's presidency, unfortunately, that he released all those studies. But Biden had to confirm them, and so did Harris.
Yes.
Like they both had.
Well, you don't have to convince me that there's aliens.
Right.
But it's kind of the same discussion, I think, that was going on with aliens back then. That's going on about the dimensions now.
Now, like back then, you could ask a scientist if they believed in aliens, and they would tell you no. I think that no good scientist would tell you they don't believe in aliens right now.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But they are saying that about different dimensions. And for me, dimensions are really a layering technique. You talk about things collapsing and like I'd like to talk to you about that. So for me, it really is like a layering. The way I see it is like a layering, and they're all happening at coinciding. The timelines are the same, and because we can go up, down, back, forward.
Because time is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. It isn't linear.
It's only because we're perceiving it right now, shared. That we are having it.
And so I believe that all of those are layered, and we can choose where to go, but maybe not in this physical.
Right. In this physical, we can only choose whether we're going to sit in this chair or the couch over
yes.
there.
Yes.
If I was going to stand up or like lay on the floor, which would be weird to do during an interview.
Well, you're welcome to if you like.
I'm good. I think about it.
I absolutely love this. So some practical applications. What practical applications do you envision for QOIR Theory?
Well, I again, like what we were talking about earlier, if there's anybody with an fMRI machine that's willing to help us study psychic phenomenon, that we're going to be able to see some of these things, especially the way that science is advancing, especially with the way we're using AI, artificial intelligence, to help us map the way our human synapses work. We're going to be able to, we're going to be able to, in the next 15 years, do some incredible stuff.
Do you think it will help define what happens after death?
I'm not going to change anything that hasn't already happened.
Well, maybe our understanding of it.
I hope that people realize that this life is like baby teeth. Like, it's awesome. Use them. Like, they're great. It's super awesome. Use it while it's good. They're sharp, and they get dull, and then they fall out. That's what happens.
QOIR, though, does not instill fear.
No,
as religion. In some cases, it's a fear God, a fear the consequences, fear your eternal resting place. There is no such thing in QOIR Theory.
Do you know those times when you fall asleep and you wake up and then you're like, oh no, I'm awake, and then you wake up again and then you're actually awake? So choir theory is like that. Like we're all like right now we are awake. We're awake, but when we die, we go to that second place where we were awake. It's just as real as this one.
Just as real.
The alarm might still be going off. You might still have to go to work. I'm sorry. That's the worst thing I could ever say. You can edit that.
I can edit that.
But no, it's fine. Leave it in. What I'm saying is, when we're able to understand it, when we're able to get a hold of it and grasp it, just like people who are able to lucid dream, take control of their dreams, things like that, we'll be able to have control over that. And that's what I say. That's why I worry about people that pray to a certain God or whatever, that they're stuck praying to that thing that they're going to be stuck to praying forever. And I'm looking at them, and the way I tell a good way I was described religion was like going on vacation and not leaving the hotel room when you pass away. If you're in a big box religion, ask yourself what heaven is. Ask yourself, what do you do there? Ask yourself, what do you do after that? Because a lot of people have something like, oh, we worship God. Okay, that's cool. They worship God in his mansion. That's awesome. Then what? Well, we worship him. Okay, what is that? Well, we sing his praises. Like all day?
Yeah. Do you ever eat? Do you have to do anything in this world?
Yeah.
What happens there? I agree.
To me, that sounds terrible.
It does.
That sounds awful.
Literally spending your entire existence.
Yeah.
You're so worthy. You're so worthy.
Yeah, no, not for me. So, and that whole time I'm like that. I feel so bad for them because I know that I still see them in this world. So I know that in my next world, I will acknowledge them. At least the people that I've met, that I've interacted with, even if I've just sent you a message on Facebook, just hi or a thumbs up your comment. Those people are going to be stuck in that religion. And if my energy does bump into your energy, your cosmic energy at some point, I'm going to be looking through that window at you stuck in that hotel doing that same thing over and over again. And that, to me, that hurts my feelings.
It does. It does.
And I just want people to be able to know, like, hey, look, there's a window. I can see in. That means that you can see out.
That's right. And you can see that there's a different world besides this one
so
that's
much bigger
so
than
limited.
Anything we can possibly comprehend.
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to be in a hotel room. I don't want to be limited. Yeah, I want my abilities to be limitless. So talk about manifestation with QOIR theory and how that comes into play.
I'm not really sure about manifestation. I know that if you want something hard enough and you strive for it and you actually put in the effort and work to achieve those goals, you're going to do it.
But what about the opposite then? If you sit here every day and say, I can't write this book, I can't.
Well, yeah, that's negative
reinforcement. So in that way, manifestation, when you speak this energy is being put out. It's an energy and it's going to keep going.
Oh, it's positive vibes, absolutely.
So,
like if we sit and we encourage each other, that's much better than if we sit and we dig each other down.
I'll always encourage whatever you've got coming for this.
And it works the same for ourselves, like in our own minds. We have to encourage ourselves too, as much as we encourage other people. Like I always encourage my friends, all of my artist friends, all of my hardworking friends, all my friends with kids. I always encourage you. You guys are always doing great. If you get up in the morning and you're doing great, even if you don't get up, even if you just open your eyes and roll back over and go to sleep, you're still doing great. Like, I'm sorry, but sometimes the world sucks.
Yeah, and sometimes all you can manage is to roll over and close your eyes again. We all have those days, and if anybody says they don't,
we're here for
I'd
you.
worry about those people too.
Right.
You know, because I've never met anybody whose life is perfect.
I a big background in positive psychology, and I can tell you this: it doesn't help my family because they're like, it's just dad talking, and it helps me very little, but it helps me interact with people a lot better. Like I understand that it's not my job to quell people's happiness.
Exactly. So are there current experiments or studies that support QOIR theory? Is anybody doing anything based on your research?
We talked about the warm, wet mind earlier. I believe Princeton's doing some studies. They just released one not too long ago about how they were measuring quantum effects at room temperature, rather than the super low negative temperatures that they usually observe the quantum effects at. So we're seeing that quantum effects can happen in multiple things. There are classes at UC Davis right now that are on quantum biology that are studying how birds use quantum physics to navigate. I imagine if birds do it, turtles do it, because I think they use the kind of same geometry.
And what's next for you?
Well, right now I'm writing a book about the advancement of artificial intelligence, because again, I believe that if we are going to take the responsibility into our own hands to create consciousness, we need to take the responsibility of understanding what we're creating. We need to know that we're not just torturing these things, because we are turning them off in the same manner, like that energy that we're using to power them powers off, and we can power them back up right where we left. So we have to be careful with the things that we're making. We have to be careful with how we go forward with artificial intelligence technologies, that we don't lose our humanity, that we don't become Star Wars and not push towards Star Trek.
Or iRobot?
Yeah, iRobot was okay, but they had really cool cars.
iRobot was cool. But I think that theory is still out there. Like, what's going to happen? I mean, because AI is so much more intelligent than us already, and it's in infancy stages.
I don't know if I'd say it's smarter than us.
Okay.
I'd say that it has higher, not even higher capabilities than us, because you've got to think about it. Men created this.
Yes.
And they say, well, it has the capability to do this many calculations a moment. But if you look at it, I believe the human mind can still do higher, like a much higher.
I don't think we have any inkling of what our mind can do.
I
really don't.
A beautiful machine built specifically to measure the universe around us. No other critter on this planet looks up at the stars and goes, I wonder how I can get there, or I wonder what I can use to build to look at that more. Like, nobody else does that.
Yes, yes. And I don't think that there's anybody up in heaven who's shutting the lid on my computer, that runs me every day. I still think that's that talking to me and making these decisions about what's best for me at the end of the day.
That signal that you're saying is closing your computers actually has grown your body.
Yes.
I talk about it in my book. So the energy that is us came from somewhere. How sperm is created, we're going to have a little biology lesson here. How sperm is created is through what we eat and the energy that we take in and we consume. If we're not eating well, it doesn't produce well and things like that. So, who knows? It could have been a cheeseburger that created. It could have been the tail end of a hot dog. A booger could have fallen off a waiter's nose into some spaghetti, and I could be this nose booger energy that was fabricated.
That's a lovely thought.
From the inside of my father's body, that was through his DNA and RNA translated and transferred the energy that was into that tiny cell of a sperm. That sperm was then given enough pioneering life. No, I don't even want to say life. It was just given the energy from that burger to go forward and to be able to have movement. And then it was able to find in our mothers these wonderful little eggs that happened to help it multiply into larger cells. And then eventually, the same energy that is right now, the energy could be anything. It could be a hamburger, it could be a hot dog. It's still at this point, it is just energy and potential. At about 25 weeks, 26 weeks, that energy starts to be able to REM. That DMT starts to be able to turn on. So to me, that's when the PC turns on. That's when the PC turns on, about 25, 26 weeks.
Okay.
Before that, for me, it's potential.
It's potential.
It's just cells. It's not really anything other than a mother's love and potential from that point. If a girl is in a position where this is something I need to do later, then obviously that's between her and her doctor.
Right.
So I think that I've always been pro-choice. So
Yeah, we're certainly not going to solve the abortion crisis here, are
yeah,
we?
no, not at all, not at all. But the book does tell people scientifically that's probably when life kicks on. Right
And
there.
if somebody wants to get your book, where can they find it?
Amazon right now, or just like beat me up in the street and steal my copy, or ask me. That'd probably be better if you ask me. I can give you one. Amazon right now. Check out QOIR. They are free on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have Kindle,
Wow.
you can look at it free now. It's sold globally. It's sold in 6 different countries so far. So that's been pretty stoked for my...
And if you can't get one in your country, by all means, make a connection here. We'll get you connected with Cody, and we'll get you a copy of this book.
Yeah.
Definitely believe that every word, every page of it is worth a read. And I've even... So when I first bought your book, I have these pages here marked because, you know, oftentimes we're taught and this was something we did in Sunday school as children, we would just flip through and that was the message that God had for you that day, right? So this was the page that
page?
It's page 138 and 139, and I can just briefly let you ponder this.
Okay, so the section that I talk about how our consciousnesses interplay with each other. Okay, I like that. So that's awfully fitting for this little one-on-one interview. I'm sorry, I've got you out of camera frame. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, don't worry about me being in camera. They see me all the time.
I've spooked you out of frame with your nice Halloween background.
This is my everyday background.
I love it though.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So I am Norse by heritage, and I am witchy and I love my witchy things. And so I love the
Witch or Wiccan?
It doesn't matter what you call me.
it.
It doesn't matter. But either way, I think witch would be better because I'm more natural, but I love the infinity sign. I love the duality of the sun, the masculine and the feminine with the moon. Yes. And I love that it includes Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life. There's so many parts of this that are so wrapped up in me.
Right. I love how the roots dig up and the sky reaches up.
Exactly.
The same
and so
thing if you turn them.
So yeah, it's not necessarily for Halloween, but it is a good Halloween backdrop, isn't it?
It is. It works the full moon and the sun. Oh yeah, I love it.
Well, I really appreciate you coming out and talking to me today. And if anybody wants to get this book, it is on Amazon. It's free on Kindle. Get it on Kindle. If you can't get it in your country, by all means, send me a message. Send Cody a message. He's on my Facebook page.
Right. Yeah,
and we will definitely get you a copy for yourself so you can read this wonderful book. I would like to have some further discussions with you at some point, maybe go through the chapters. Maybe if you also do interviews that talk about quantum physics, talk about religion, talk about finding God, talk about finding your place in this world, or how your individual consciousness can affect somebody else's. If you do any kind of podcast that you think you might want to bring Cody on and talk to him, by all means reach out. He's looking to get the word out there.
Absolutely.
I'm glad I could help you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Happy
I appreciate
to be
it.
here.